Let's talk about what makes Morgan Wallen's performance of Sand in My Boots awesome. Hi, I'm Dr. Mark, and I'm going to help you sing and perform more like the top artists around the world. I'm a professional voice teacher, performance coach, and opera stage director. I've helped thousands of singers around the world learn the techniques and methods that got the top singers to where they are. This video showed up in trending, looked interesting. Lots of people seem to love his writing. Let's see what we got.
She asked me where I was from. I said somewhere you never been to. Little town outside of Knoxville, heading by some dogwood trees. She tried talking with my accent. We held hands and waded into that blue water. She left the flip-flops by my red wings on the beach.
Okay, two things I want to point out up front. First off, notice how his mouth is right on that mic. Really important. Also really huge to notice as someone who's, if you're just wanting to start singing for yourself and figure out how do I make sounds like that, is to realize that the sound that you're hearing is made by someone's mouth being right up against the mic. I know, obvious, right? But when you think about it yourself and think, the sound that you're probably trying to make as you're singing in the car, the shower, wherever else, is not with a mic up right against your face. So make sure that if you're trying to compare your sound to someone else's, that you're comparing apples to apples, right? So give it a try. Number two thing that I want to point out here as you're watching him sing is that there's not any tension here. It's pretty relaxed. You're not really seeing much of a smile or any lift in here yet. It's relatively collapsed in back. It's in his lower range. He can get away with it. He's got a mic right in front of him. And it's part of the style that's just really conversational, just like you're talking to some guy on the street and he's just doing his thing. Super relaxed, calm, right? My guess is when we get to the chorus, we might get something different. Don't know. Never watched this before, so we'll see.
Even now I'm dodging potholes.
There it is. Keith, come popping on out.
Silverado, like a heartbroken desperado, headed right back to my.
We get higher. Upper two smile comes popping out. More lift.
Kiss me, tell me she loved Eastern Tennessee. Yeah, but all I brought back with me was some sand in my boots.
So the important part to realize as we're talking about this is, yeah, if we look across all the different styles, things change when we get that middle higher range. It stays pretty consistent across the different styles, which suggests there at the beginning that that sound he established at the beginning kind of gets us into the mood, the character of the song, so that even when he gets a sound that's really pretty similar to a bunch of other styles in that middle higher range in terms of how he's using that mouth, our brain is still located in this country music kind of sound, right? Now, that also begs, well then, what does make this style unique? Why does this still sound like country? A few reasons. Biggest reason is actually how they use their diphthongs, right? So diphthong means in, say the word sound, right? You have a and oo. You can break that down even further to sound, right? Into smaller sounds if you want to be nitpicky. But let's just imagine we're doing a and oo, sound, right? Diphthong. If we're singing normally in normal pop music or other places, we usually linger on the first part of that diphthong, the sa. In country, to make it sound like it does and kind of give that twang, it lingers on the second part of the diphthong. So the ooh, sound, 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 right? Rather than sound. Hear the difference in the two? So that's one of the big differences that makes country sound the way it does, is how they're treating that diphthong. Give it a try.
I said, let's go shoot tequila. So we walked back to that beach bar, and she said, don't cowboys drink whiskey. So we drank bottom ship, and she said, damn, that sky looks perfect. And I said, girl, you never seen stars like the ones back home. And she said, maybe I should see them for myself.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to point out that you can use and learn from him here is if you're practicing on your own, just speak through the words first. Speak through the words until you can speak them in a way that feels organic and natural and believable. Whether it's kind of poetic language or pretty normal verse that isn't really rhymey or have a specific meter, give it a try. And once you can speak it in a way that's really genuine and authentic and sounds like you're really saying them and mean them, then try to keep the emphasis on the same syllables. Try to keep the same dynamic contrast. Try to add a little bit of the ebb and flow of it, meaning some words you're going to linger a little bit long, and other words you're going to pull back and just rob some time from and just jump over really quickly. What makes his singing so expressive is this quality of his lingering and giving emphasis to certain words and delivering the text on specific pitches for specific durations, but in a way that really closely mirrors speech.
Yeah, but now I'm dodging bottles in my sunburned Silverado.
So we start hearing some distortion. The key point is to realize he's not singing with distortion all the time, right? A lot of people come to me and they want to start working on distortion, which is great. We can do that. Happy to do that. But they hear a song and they hear some grit and distortion, and for some reason that translates into our thinking sometimes like that's the entire song. That's the way they're singing the entire time. When usually it's not. Even when we're listening to heavy metal, a lot of times it's just every once in a while that we get some of that grit on specific words or maybe a few phrases or a verse, and that's about it. And that's the case here. He's just coloring a little bit to give it a little bit of a unique color, a little bit more emotional intensity. And then my guess is we're probably going to pull back off that distortion here and that grit in just a second.
I broke desperado, headed right back to my roots. Something about the way she kissed me tells me she loved Eastern Tennessee. Yeah, but all I brought back with me was some sand in my boots. Oh, I said, meet me in the morning. And she told me I was crazy, yeah, but I still thought that maybe she'd show up.
Okay, so one of the things that's also important to notice here is that even though he's relatively closed here in front, which is keeping it really speech-like, there's still a release here in the back jaw. So the way we can tell if we're released or not is we can close our mouth, then press our fingers here between our back molars. And there should be enough space so that our finger could fit through those back molars if there was no skin here, right? So we're noticing that it's still releasing, it's dropping open. You might think, well, it's not that much. Well, compare it to yourself in the mirror when you're singing. There's a lot of people that think, oh yeah, I'm opening that jaw, I'm really, really trying to get that open. And it's not, right? It's really pretty closed. You'll notice here at different points and on different vowels, he opens more than he does on different vowels. So especially that ah vowel is opening up really nice and wide, just like it should. That's helping also keep this really natural, organic speech-like singing, which is connects to us in a way that makes us feel like we're just being told a story by a normal guy, which is kind of the point of this style a lot of the time. So cool.
Oh, but now I'm dodging bottles in my sunburned Silverado, like a heartbroken desperado, headed right back to my roots.
I want you to also notice that with that distortion, he's not singing louder. It sounds more intense to us. It sounds more emotional, but he's not singing with more decibel levels. In fact, if I listen closely, it actually sounds like he's singing with a little bit less. Our ears don't hear it that way. Our brain doesn't hear it that way, but really crucial. A lot of people, the downfall that they arrive at when they start trying to sing with some distortion, some grit, is that they think they need to push harder. They need to force it out. If they just like cramp down on it and clamp down and push it, then that will make the grit. Not how we want to make it happen. And that's not how he's making it happen here. So pretty cool.
Something about the way she kissed me tells me she loved Eastern Tennessee. Yeah, but all I brought back with me was some sand in my boots. Yeah, but all I brought back with me was some sand in my boots.
So we talked about a lot what was going on singing wise, technique wise, the sound he's getting, some on the style. Visually, I want to point out a few things that as we're watching, you'll notice that the setting, scenery, costumes, lighting was relatively simple. Didn't change much, right? But it communicated a ton. My question to you is, were you bored? I wasn't. I wasn't bored watching it. Well, why wasn't I bored? There wasn't all these different angles and shots and action and all these other things happening. Well, I lied. There actually were lots of different camera angles and shots and panning and zooming in and cool stuff like that. That was huge. That was really helpful in adding variety to what we're seeing, right? So that is that. But in terms of we weren't cutting from one scene to a different scene. He wasn't like in a barn and then at the beach and then playing out the entire story. No. What was communicated here is he was telling a story about something else. He wasn't living it in the moment. He was telling you about it, and it read really well. What is it that made it interesting and engaging then? What is it that made it so it wasn't boring? Yeah, it was the variety and camera angles. Obviously, just how he's singing, just how he's telling the story. Think about it. If you're just sitting there talking to a friend and they're telling you a story and they're telling you in a way where like they really meant it and it really meant something to them, would you be bored? I hope not. I wouldn't be. I'd be engaged, listening to the story, and I'd let my imagination go. One of the things that I really love about this kind of storytelling is it engages my mind, it helps communicate the message, but it also allows my mind to build its own story, its own image, its own connections. If he was to be really literal and try to show what happened in each point of this song and the story and how he is picturing it, it might rob my imagination of some of the freedom to be able to come up with its own images and pictures and connect with it in my own way. It forced me to connect with it in his way. Is that good or bad? No, just different. But to me, the lyrics of this called for this kind of storytelling, where it wasn't as a literal. It let me come up with my own story again, just like we were sitting there chatting as friends. And I thought it was pretty awesome. Hope you enjoyed it too. Comment down below with what you liked, what you thought made this an awesome performance, what you like about his songs and singing. Comment down below with what else you think I should be reacting to and listening to. I love to hear what your recommendations are and try to listen to them and react to the things that you think are awesome. You can come check me out on my website, foundyourvoice.com. You can book a lesson there. You can also find me on wizio.com, where you can send me a short video or audio clip for me to give you suggestions or feedback on. My favorite thing in the world is helping singers progress. Progress as singers, progress as performers. I also work with a lot of businessmen and audio book readers and voiceover artists to help them speak easier, as well as singers to sing easier. And both of them, we always work on how to become a more convincing, believable, and authentic performer. I'd love to work with you too. See you next time.